Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's edition of an extra of a slice of history with the Butterfly Princess. In this series, as we know, every week. I read you an article from the latest edition of the BBC History magazine, which I'm a subscriber to. Now, this week I'm going to read you an article and it's called Five Things You Probably Didn't Know About Victorian Britain. Now, this article has been written by a historian, Ruth Goodman, who is a social and domestic historian and broadcaster. Her books include How to Be a Victorian and she with history with the BBC History magazine. They have an app and a website called History Extra. This is where you can get all different articles and podcasts about various different historical topics. And within this History Extra app and website, they do have a History Extra Academy where an expert on a particular historical subject will teach a course on a subject. And Ruth Goodman is currently teaching a 6-week course on Victorian Britain, for the History Extra Academy. So these are some of the 5 things that we probably didn't know about Victoria Britain, written by Ruth Goodman. So here goes. Number 1, mass transport and holidays profited. Trams, trains, trams, buses, and London's tubes all revolutionised British transport during Victoria's reign. People had never before been able to move around so easily, so quickly, or in such huge numbers. Admittedly, the first scheduled steam-hauled passenger service had chugged along the Liverpool and Manchester Railway in 1830. 7 years before Victoria took the throne. However, the great surge of routes spreading throughout Britain, linking every part of the nation, was primarily a Victorian phenomenon. Trains and buses also prolificated after early Chantal starts in the world's first underground train line, the Metropolitan Railway, running between Paddington and Farringdon, opened in London in 1863. With these new technologies came new ways of living, commuting to work from home and suburbs, the standardisation of time and clocks, even the idea of going on holiday. Movement became the new normal. Number 2, education and literacy boomed. Education was a hot topic at the start of Victoria's reign, when about half of the population of Britain had no schooling at all. Victorians set their collective sights on improving both these basic numbers and the quality of education across the social spectrum. It would prove to be a long, hard slog, but one that but one that shifted Britain into a new phase of development. Diverse groups of people got in on the act, and built in rather principled fashion, setting up schools for the blind, schools for the ragged poor, schools for the non-conformist churchgoers, and schools for misbehaving boys. Notably, schools for girls opened around across the land. By 1860, those constitutive effects were having an effect. 70% of boys and 60% of girls could now read and write as they entered the world of full-time employment. But it was only when politicians decided the state should get involved that a true step change occurred. The Elementary Education Act of 1870 introduced a framework for the provision of universal education for children aged between 5 and 12 in England and Wales. Although parents still had to pay fees in most cases, then to make education truly universal, a further act in 1891 mandated government money being given directly to schools and banned elementary schools from charging fees. Free mass education had arrived, and by 1901, pretty much the entire population of Britain was literate. Number 3, Britain's food supply became truly global. For centuries, sailing ships had brought luxury foodstuffs to Britain from around the world. Sugar, tea, and spices were desirable imports and commercially expensive, but the fortification of steamships, faster and boasting vastly more space for cargo, making the importation of more basic staples commonly valuable. From the 1870s, wheat from Canada and the US, beef from Argentina, and lamb from New Zealand began to arrive in vast amounts. In Britain, food prices fell dramatically as supplies of such imported goods soared. More food fed more mouths and raised the living standards of the urban poor. It also pushed British agriculture into a steep decline, driving down the living standards of the rural poor and forcing vast numbers of people off the land. Number 4. The communication became fast and cheap. The story of the Victorian age consisted with a huge reduction in the cost of communication and a massive rise in its speed. In 1837, 2 things changed. First, commercial electronic telegraph system was demonstrated, enabling the near instant transmission of messages, which became known as telegrams. At almost the same moment, Sir Rowland Hill was campaigning for the introduction of a system of affordable prepaid postage, the stamp. The introduction of the penny post in 1840 saved a fortune and administration and made sending letters much more affordable. The post office boomed, offering 2 deliveries a day in most areas and 4 a day in central London. It was possible in the business districts to have a full back and forth conversation in a single day, much like email today. Then in 1878, the telephone arrived in Britain. Alexander Graham Bell demonstrated it to the Queen himself on the 14th of January, and communications spread up further still. Number 5, the nation's health got a major flip. When Victoria became Queen in 1837, life expectancy in Britain was about 38 years of age. By the end of her reign, in 1901, it had risen to around 48. Both of these numbers seem low to us now. This nevertheless represented an enormous improvement in the health of the nation. The key to that change was an acceptance into grudging of germ theory, the idea that sickness is caused by tiny living creatures such as bacteria and viruses. That knowledge brought with it all the realisation that such causes of disease can be killed or at least kept away from people by the use of stringent hygiene. This meant improvement in water supplies, disposal of human waste, cleanliness of food production, and the hygiene of our homes and bodies. During the Victorian era, wholesale campaigns aimed to provide the entire population with safe drinking water and efficient drains, accompanied by fundamental leaps forward in medical science. These resulted in major health gains across the land. That was an article entitled 5 Things You probably didn't know about Victorian Britain by the social and domestic historian Ruth Goodman. This concludes this week's edition of Extra Slice of History with a slice of history with the Butterfly Princess. Join me again on Thursday for an extra slice of history with the Butterfly Princess, where I will be revealing tomorrow the subject of that episode. Next week, I'm going to be reading you, it's not such of an article next week that I'm going to be reading you from the latest edition of the BBC History magazine. Instead, I'm going to be reading you some questions and answers that historical questions that people have wanted answered, and these questions are answered by historical conundrums are answered by experts. So that is going to be the subject of next week's edition of A Slice of History with the Butterfly Princess. Hope you can join me for that. Until then, have a lovely rest of your week, and I will see you again on Thursday. Thank you. Bye-bye.